Welcome to the podcast series Talking Success, Connecting the Global Fintech Community. I'm Catherine Brassell, and today I am joined by Group Managing Director at Accelerex Holdings, Tunde Ogungbade. Accelerex is the parent company of African Fintech powerhouse, Global Accelerex Limited, and they look to simplify everyday life across Africa through innovative digital payments and financial services. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tunde. How has the start of the year been? And we're in Q2 already.
Oh, we've been up to exciting times and really looking forward to 2022 coming out of the pandemic. So enjoying the ride and looking forward to great accomplishments in 2022.
Brilliant. Likewise. So we'd love to just, kick off our podcast today and hear a bit more about you, kicking off with your career journey and really what got you started and passionate about the fintech space.
Excellent. So I started my career in the UK, actually in Europe, working in IT consulting as a system engineer. Through that, got experience in industries such as oil and gas, broadcasting, pay TV, digital right management, which wasn't an award then. And after that, moved to North America to focus on management consulting, where I worked for companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers, Capgemini, Ernst & Young, so Jetty. And as a management consultant, worked on engagements for clients in several industries, requiring things like technology solution, process improvements, and strategic change. After that experience, left management consulting to spend about 6 years plus in the utilities sector as a leader, helping with restructuring a whole technology department and bringing in new staff of 100 FTE to bring strategic and transformational change to an organization that had been around for about 90 years. So that kind of gives you a background of some of the things I've done. So it's been exciting working across those continents in the different sectors and industries, certainly management consulting.
Yeah, that sounds like it's always quite a solid foundation for a lot of the leaders that we have the privilege of chatting to. So I'm sure it taught you a great deal. And, talking about, Accelerex at the moment, and also just, sort of casting your mind back to when you were more in the sort of startup phase, what were some of the biggest sort of barriers to entry? And maybe something that sort of comes to mind that you'd love to share with us?
That's a good question. So while I was during my career, I got an opportunity to work with the financial services industry, certainly, both on the investment banking side and as well as the retail banking, and also some even in the treasury government management. So what really got us excited, or got me personally excited about the fintech industry, was really an opportunity to bring change and inclusion to the space in Africa. And certainly the challenge there was, lack of infrastructure, like you have in mature markets, lack of regulation policy still evolving, heavy dependency on cash, and all those, pillars and structures that you take for granted in the West that wasn't really formidable or established in the segments and industry we were focused on, certainly in our market. So those are the challenges, lack of regulation, lack of clarity. Infrastructure was still being developed sort of poor. It gave an advantage on one hand because you didn't have anything to take out and replace. But on the other hand, you had to go in and introduce a new set of behavior to a consumer space that had been in existence for hundreds of years. So that the challenge was regulatory, challenge was infrastructure, technology, challenge was even consumer behavior. So all those three things were maybe part of the big entry barriers that were there at the startup phase.
Yeah, of course. And how would you say that, how's that sort of shifted over the last couple of years? Because obviously there've been a lot of, startups, and I think people are slowly becoming a bit more sort of financially aware. Do you feel that those barriers are kind of breaking a bit now?
Yeah, I do. I certainly feel like things are much easier now. There was no word called fintech at that point in time. Now, if you say you're a fintech, the industry and even capital kind of knows what you're doing. Those barriers in terms of regulation, there are things like regulatory sandbox. Regulators know about startups coming in to complement banks, financial institutions that have been around to try and solve the problem. So it's somewhat easier. now. And one of the biggest thing on the consumer side is there's a greater awareness. Now there's the infrastructure challenges have been largely solved. There's a huge tele density. Most people have smart devices, so they can connect and engage digitally. They're on social media. So I think some of the challenges that were there in terms of hurdles to get across have been largely solved. There may still be some on the regulatory side, but that's more of a formative and the fact that technology is always ahead of regulation. But I mean, largely it's solved. Startups now have it easier, and the industry understands the problem, and consumers are also receptive.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to sort of be in the space, and let's look at you, as a leader, as somebody, sort of, driving, the financial technology industry. What would you say are some of your core strengths and skills that have really served you best to kind of drive performance in the company?
I think certainly you can't discount the knowledge of technology because between fin and tech is technology, financial technology. So that has been one, a great and a deep understanding of technology, and not just technology, but how to use technology to solve real business problems. That's one. Certainly management consulting has given a great deal of experience in how to look at any industry, whether it's pharma or financial services or retail, or anything in between there, and look at how they create value and extract rent or profit from that value. And so those two things have been very, very dear to me in terms of core strength that have served me well to drive performance and profitability for what we're doing in Accelerex.
Awesome. And how would you say you kind of motivate your teams to succeed? Because that leads me to my next question, which will be about some of the awards that you guys have won. But just how do you actually drive, how do you kind of motivate everyone to really give their best and perform?
So my leadership style has been one where I empower people. I really want people to have a sense of not just being a part of something bigger than themselves that we can all achieve individually, but coming together we can accomplish, but more also bringing people's strength and qualities out and having them fulfill their own life purpose as they fulfill the company's objective. And I'm really I have an eye for people and how the best in terms of skill, knowledge, and ability can be extracted, pushed to the next frontier, and organize that together and bringing people together to achieve results. I think that's one of the things that's enabled us to win those awards. I mean, it's not always technology, it's not always capital. It's something that is a blend of those various things, the people, the process, the technology, but more so how you can harness the human capital and organize it to achieve goals and great results. And I think that's what really stands out for us when you think about winning those fintech service provider award or customer focus ITT, etc. Those things have been about how we can organize our people, how we can bring them together, and bring out the best in them, and more importantly, help them achieve their life's purpose in their career purpose as they achieve the company's objective. That has been largely what we've been focused on, and bringing out the best in people and helping them fulfill their dreams. I think that's very critical. That's one leadership value that we mustn't forget.
Yeah, and so you would say that the people have been one of the biggest attributors to the success. On the back of that, how are you actually selecting your teams and going through that process in terms of building, your successful management teams, and obviously it filters all the way down. But what are some of the sort of, I would say, core perhaps values or attributes that you look for when you are selecting people and your teams?
So, a very good question. I think one thing that is, and I'll just segue, that's a big problem right now is that there's a talent war going on, especially in the post-COVID world. Pre-COVID, in a startup phase, you pretty much look for people who have the ability to learn, irrespective of discipline and knowledge, So they may not necessarily come from accounting, financial services background, but do they have the capacity? Do they have the requisite background that gives them the ability to learn any industry or develop their talent in an industry they're passionate about? So certainly I look for passion. I look for the foundational knowledge that gives them the ability to take on any challenge. But now in a post-COVID world, especially as a business matures, you need a strong management team. So you definitely want people who have some type of experience. They've cut their teeth and proven their ability to lead team, organize for results. Just because someone has a title called a leader or manager doesn't necessarily mean that they have the ability to lead. So we do a lot of assessment, especially when we're looking at mid-level to senior level roles. We definitely leverage on personality assessment tools. So whether it's a Myers-Briggs type indicator or Kilman conflict mode, all those type of assessments, I think is very critical because we want to know, barring everything else, can this person be a part of the culture? Can they fit into the team? Would they bring something that would drive execution? Would they bring something that will help focus on results? Inattention to detail is so common in leadership these days, and we need to get people who would help us focus on achieving the results. So we use different dimensions to evaluate this. Certainly one is assessment nowadays is so key. We do a lot of that. We lean on this psychometric testing type tools just to make sure that can we really get to understand this person, because we want to measure 10 times before we cut once.
Yeah, it's a commitment,
It
of course. And I mean, of course, people, make the company, so you want to be sure. Moving, across from people and talking a little bit more about trends in the fintech space. I'm sure you've got your pulse on a lot of what's happening globally, but it was just to ask, what are some of the kind of big fintech trends that you're currently following that you're kind of getting excited about, and also looking forward to seeing more of?
One of the biggest fintech trends that I think I'm following is really what's going to happen in terms of consumer behavior in the future. Certainly, there's the whole concept of banking is changing, and the concept of who is the customer is also changing, and where is the customer located, and who owns the customer. So those things have been challenged by technology. Certainly, if you think about 20 years ago, the bank was right in the center of that conversation. But now data providers are asking that question. Of course, there are things like data protection rights that are also challenging how you manage customer information. There are social media giants that are also challenging the question of who owns the customer. So that there's this whole myriad of challengers, if you will, around who owns the customer, and certainly regulation is who decides, as the arbiter, if you will, that decides, well, who currently holds or stores your value or holds your money. And that's because of the way the monetary system works. So there's going to be an interesting future, especially when you think about DeFi and blockchain and Bitcoins and this whole new trends that are emerging around how people store value, spend the value that they store, and or even the rails that are used for transiting those values from one beneficiary to another. It's those trends that we're looking at to see how things shape out. Certainly, globally, there are regulatory changes that are sweeping upon us. That those who are for and against will continue to watch those and see how that plays out. And at the heart of it, and what's really bringing economies of scale and scope to is what technology can do that it couldn't do, if you will, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I'm excited about those trends as they're shaping out. I'm more excited about what it does for the consumer and how it transforms the life of a consumer, enables them to be financially included, gives them the ability to be economically empowered, and give them an opportunity that they will otherwise not have been able to have in life if it were not for the cost and entry level of this technology. So that's really what keeps me excited.
And exactly what you said about the infrastructure now slowly, being in place. Everyone has mobile phones, so there's no reason why people can't be financially included.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone should be. And financial inclusion certainly is a major problem to solve with fintechs in Africa. And if you look at mature economies, one of the things that makes things faster is the ability for and that's why we call it currency, to move kind of faster. If the current flows faster, investments, someone's saving becomes someone else's investment. Access to capital is easy. The capital markets are mature. It just does a lot for the economy. So financial inclusion is going to be the pillar for transformation in Africa. And certainly that's why we have our eyes squarely focused on that.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting to watch all of it unfold. And like you say, especially in Africa right now where it's needed the most. Okay, so let's cast our attention, more to Accelerex Holdings, the company itself. What can listeners kind of keep an eye out for this year? What are some of the exciting projects on the go, and what can you kind of let us know about at this stage that's happening?
I guess one of the things that I'm super excited about in Accelerex Holding is the future and the problem we're solving. We've learned a lot over the last decade with our presence in West Africa, certainly Nigeria, where our roots started from, and learning things in the payment space, payment service provider space, moving from that to agent network, and then certainly taking a small presence in the microfinance space, and then taking that lesson to Ghana and what we're doing in Ghana and with our licenses there. I think one of the things I'm more excited about is taking the lessons we've learned in West Africa East, and with the work we're doing in Kenya, Tanzania, in Congo, and other adjacent markets, Uganda, etc. And more importantly, going there to learn, to listen, because we know consumers are not exactly the same. Payment behavior of financial services is not exactly the same. But taking the lessons we've learned and going there to learn something new, so that we can get the entire African continent financially included. Certainly, we're not the only ones solving that problem, but I'm excited about the way we are approaching it, because we're looking at it from a service promise. We keep the Accelerex service promise front and center. And I talked about people earlier on. We want to make sure that the promise that we make to the consumer, to the merchant, to the agent, or anyone who is benefiting one way or another from our products and services, is that it achieves the objective without them even knowing that they're being a part of the utility. And that's what brings us joy. A lot of people are using Accelerex Rails or products or tools. They don't even know that that's what's happening. Maybe it's kind of facading behind some other product or service, and that's what they focus on. And that's when you know that you've actually achieved utility scale. And that's what we want to do as we move and venture east and look at sub-Saharan Africa and other things that are going on there. And certainly, we would then be thinking about cross-pollination. What are the things that are working in the West that we can transplant into the East, and what are things we've learned from the East that we can bring back to the West? So I think that's going to be a very rich learning for us. Certainly, we are doubling down and anchoring down on all sides and making sure that the challenge and opportunity of financial inclusion and the role that we're supposed to play, where we're achieving those, and we're delighting our customers.
Fabulous. Yeah, no, it's you've highlighted so many, just so many exciting kind of reasons why we love being in Africa right now. And we're excited to watch Accelerex Holdings over the next few months and years to come. And hopefully we can have you back on the podcast in maybe a year's time, and you can tell us a slightly different story, but definitely a story of growth, which is exciting.
Catherine, I'd love to do that.
But thank you so much for your time today, Tunde. Can you tell our listeners, if they would like to get hold of you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
The best way is always our website, accelerexholdings.com or globalaccelerex.com. The easiest way is also reaching us through Instagram, at Global Accelerex, on LinkedIn. You can search us Accelerex Holding or Global Accelerex, and any of our payment service businesses would always be using the brand name Global Accelerex. Our agent network would be Accelerex Network, so any of those would be a fair way to find us.
Is that the closing bell?
Actually, that is the market opening.
I should know this. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today again. And all the best for Q2 and beyond.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode, Talking Success, Connecting the Global Fintech Community. Please follow us on LinkedIn under Talent in the Cloud, or if you're interested in exec talent, expanding your fintech team, or you yourself are looking for an exciting change in your career, please check out our website, talentinthecloud.io.